Hello. Oh, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Today, I have some special guests on with me. I have Sam and Aria Pierce, and they're going to be telling us a little bit about their story and their journey to getting their rainbow baby. So, guys, can you introduce yourselves and then just tell us a little bit about your story?
Yes, I'm Aria Pierce,
And I'm Sam Pierce.
and just let you know a little bit about our story. So we've been married for about 9 years, matter of fact. And when we were in year 5 of our marriage, we actually experienced infertility. And a lot of people in our community don't talk about it, and we never even thought that would be an issue that we would face together. But it wasn't until we started going to the doctors and things like that that we found out that we were both diagnosed by the doctors with fertility impairments. Me, I had PCOS, and
I was diagnosed with low sperm count. It's like 97% of my sperm were dead.
Wow. Wow. So you
and
both had issues
yeah,
going on at the same time. Wow.
yeah. And so, given both of our situations, our doctor was just being honest with both of us and said they doubt that we would really have children naturally.
Hmm.
They said because PCOS is hard, the hormone control, and I wasn't even making progesterone at all. I had levels. My level was 0, and they said that
Wow.
it had to be a certain level.
Hmm.
So then, like with his condition, so given those together, it didn't look like we were going to have children naturally.
Hmm.
And of course, they start talking to us about IVF and IUI. But even with that, is the finances. To be
Yes.
honest, like even in our community, we had insurance, but our insurance did not cover IVF.
Right.
So that was an issue. And honestly, it didn't look like we were going to have children
Hmm.
if we depended on that. And so at that point, they did try what they could with me.
Hmm.
I was put on metformin. So metformin is not just for people with diabetes.
Yes.
If you have PCOS, that's how they kind of treat you,
Hmm.
because it deals with being insulin resistant. So they put me on metformin, hoping that would help. It did not, and then they put me on Clomid. So
Hmm.
with Clomid, you can only do 5 or 6 cycles, and then you can't do any more because it can mess up reproduction system, things like that. So
Hmm.
I exhausted my 6 cycles. I did 6 cycles of the Clomid, and we still had not gotten pregnant within that year that we
Hmm.
were trying. And so at that point, I didn't know they make male Clomid. So
Oh.
yeah, so because they said the male Clomid will actually help to increase the sperm count.
Hmm.
So we knew that he had low sperm count, and in the account that he did have, there was 97% that were dead. So they were hoping that if we increase it, possibly that would help out too. But it didn't. He did, I think, 2 rounds of Clomid with that, and it didn't. And so at that point, they did. We talked to a fertility specialist, and they talked to us about IVF and things like
Hmm.
that. But we decided we weren't going to go that route, especially because of the insurance.
Hmm.
And we decided we were gonna put our trust and our hope and our faith in God.
Hmm.
That if that was His will for our life, then and we desired to be parents, that we would be parents one day. And so, to our surprise, in June 2016, we found out we were pregnant with our first child,
Oh.
and we conceived her naturally.
Hmm.
And in May of 2018, we found out we were expecting baby number 2,
Hmm.
but it resulted in a miscarriage.
Oh.
And we were definitely devastated by that.
Hmm.
And then in April of 2019 of this year, we found out we were pregnant with baby number 3. And so we are expecting to have
Oh,
baby number
yay.
3
Hmm.
pretty soon, in about 5 weeks now, December 16th.
Wow, what a wonderful story. So, guys, when you were in the middle of this, because our story is not exactly similar, but I knew that I was probably going to have issues. I wasn't really sure why. I had never been diagnosed with anything, but I just felt like there was probably a problem. And so, after we had Michaela, that's when I found out from the doctor, Dr. Cousin. She was like, I don't know how you got pregnant in the first place. Like, it's a miracle. You should never have had children. So sometimes these doctors tell you things like, oh no, you will never have kids. And how did that make you guys feel? Because I know for me, I kind of felt like I was broken, like something was wrong with me, and that I should have been able to do this. Like, you know, you are a person, you're supposed to be able to get married, have sex, have babies. Everybody does it. This is how it's supposed to go. And a lot of times, especially when you're in church, you get married, and the first question is, when are you going to have a baby? So, you know, how did that make you guys feel to know that you are now in this marriage and these doctors are telling you that you will never have children? Kind of
I'll
walk
speak,
us through that.
I'll speak from a woman's perspective, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'll let Sam share from a male's perspective. I
Mm-hmm.
know for being a woman, as women, like we're naturally nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since I was a little girl, I dreamed of having a baby, with my baby dolls and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be a mom. So
Mm-hmm.
I was devastated because I felt like this is something that I should be able to do, and
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking to be being told that you may not be. It's a possibility you may not.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly I hadn't really known about all like infertility, and I like you hear about I heard about people not having children, but I really hadn't. My heart hadn't been open to have that compassion until
Mm-hmm.
I was going through it myself,
Yeah.
and then I really began to see like I realized like some things people say can be insensitive at times. Until you don't realize until you actually on that journey yourself and you experience it,
Mm-hmm.
and I know, like for me, it was just definitely it was devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that I haven't always been abstinent, but when I gave my life to Christ, I wanted to do it the right way. So I became
Mm-hmm.
celibate. We dated. We never had sex until we got married. I wanted to do it the right way, and so when we got married and it happened, you kind of like wonder like, well, why us?
Right.
So it was definitely devastating.
Mm-hmm. What
Uh,
about you, Sam?
well, for me, I'm always been a stubborn person,
Mm-hmm.
since I was a child. I'm the type, I was competitive. I don't really take no for an answer
Mm-hmm.
until I have exhausted the no to know, like, okay, it's no way it can happen. So it didn't really bother me as much when the doctors said that, because they said 97% of my sperm was dead. And so I was like, well, that means 3% are alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. We just gotta keep going.
Right.
But I was wanting to make sure that I was there for my wife, and I believe the Holy Spirit, only Him could have put that type of mindset in me.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get in situations like this, it can bring couples apart
Mm-hmm.
because one person is saying this is not going to happen, the other person saying this is not going to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
then it could be frustrating for the both of you. But I believe during that time that it had to be God, like I said, just naturally, like, okay, well, is there anything else we can do?
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically no, So, I took the Clomid and everything. But honestly, I stopped taking the Clomid because when it came up, it didn't register there like that I was taking it. So I said,
Mm.
well, I'm gonna stop taking it anyway. And
Right.
so I just know that for me, I still needed to be encouraged because men also need to be encouraged. But you don't got a lot of men, even in church, in that community. But the
Mm-hmm.
small group that I had of guys that encouraged me, my friends that I've been with since college,
Mm-hmm.
they will pray for me. They will encourage me,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helped. But I wasn't really down about it. It was sometimes where the enemy would say, well, what if you don't have kids? What if, what if, what if? I will always go back to that mindset that God can do anything he wants to. And it's
Right.
his will, not our will. But this is a desire. This is something that we both desire. And Lord, I'm just asking you to, let it come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I put forth that mindset of saying, okay, we're going to keep trying until we have it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we look, 3% is there. That means we need to get that 3% to find an egg or do something. You know, I mean,
Yes.
because if only it's still alive. And
Mm-hmm.
so I looked at it still as a miracle, but I also know that with that mindset, it didn't bother me. It helped me to be there for my wife, who, sometimes, as we are being the head of our household, we mostly look at it from a money standpoint a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, but we don't look at it from a uh, standpoint of saying, hey, I want to take some blows. Even though I'm hurting, I'm going to reach out to people, for the brothers to get to me, but this is maybe the time I need to be in more prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be the one to seek the Lord. I need to be the one fasting,
Mm-hmm.
because as the head of my household, it's not being the head as far as how much I got in my bank account. It's how much I have a relationship with God, and I can lead my family to be an imitation of
Mm-hmm.
Christ
Mm-hmm.
in my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I looked at it.
Wow, that's powerful. Because I know a lot of times in this journey, you you feel isolated. I know for me personally, I felt like there was nobody else going through. You would pray, you would have people praying for you. You go to the altar, people laying hands on you, all of these things, and then you see somebody post some type of announcement, and it hits you, and you're like, man. Well, God, I'm doing all these things and it's not working out for me. Why is it working out for them? And just to keep getting back up and keep going after all of that and after everything that the doctors have said. And for you to have that kind of faith like that, that is awesome, you guys. I really, really do love your story. So can you guys talk about whether or not you felt supported while you're on this journey? I know oftentimes when we're talking about fertility treatments, me personally, I've had people tell me, because the doctor told us we needed to do IVF at one point as well, and we never did it because I didn't want to pump my body with all of those chemicals, and we just didn't really feel like it was the best fit for us. And the money, like spending 10, 20, $30,000 in hopes of maybe having a baby, wasn't something that we felt like we wanted to do. But I commend the people that do. But when talking to our friends and family about that, a lot of them would say negative things when we're talking about dealing with fertility drugs or whatever. Like, well, if God wanted you to have a baby, he would have just let you have a
Oh,
baby.
yeah.
So can you guys kind of talk about maybe some of the things that were said to you,
Oh, yeah.
and how that made you feel throughout this journey?
So that was an interesting part because I really realized, like, sometimes people, and I'm not gonna say like all the time. Like I'm not. It makes me more conscious too,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes we put our foot in our mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to take back words. And
Yeah.
sometimes people just don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes if you don't know what to say, just don't say anything because it can hurt. But I know one thing we were asked, like, especially after we had been married like 5 years and we still didn't have children. Somebody actually asked us one day, y'all don't have any kids yet? What's going on? Y'all don't know how to make it work? You don't know what to do? And so, it just, that was kind of like, kind of awkward,
Mm-hmm.
And then I actually had somebody tell me, well, maybe it's not meant for us to be parents.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should just adopt,
Mm-hmm.
maybe we're not meant to have children on our own.
Mm-hmm.
Just be thankful that, because I was a teacher in the pre-K classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I had somebody tell me, well, maybe I just be thankful that I was a teacher, that I was already a mom to children and I teach every day, and to be grateful for that.
Wow.
And so then, so it definitely can, it can leave hard feelings in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
When people say those insensitive things to you.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely as far as like support, I like, kind of like what you were mentioning too, people, and I definitely, I enjoy people, and I appreciate people praying for me, laying on hands, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted a little bit something more.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted somebody to know, like, literally, I understand you, I feel you, and I'm gonna walk with you. And so I felt like that was missing, and I didn't have that. Locally, like we don't have any like support groups, especially that are faith based,
Right.
and that was very important. And so it was just by the grace of God, He connected me when I was going through, because I did go through a depression. And I found out God connected me to two support groups that were in Chicago.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm here in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I met these people through technology. And it was just like, wow, these are women and men of God, and they're going through what we're going through. And I felt like I was encouraged, and that's how I got through for me as far as support. There's one group called Fertilizing Your Faith, and then there's another group called Pregnancy by Faith. And so I made relations. And we actually, by faith, we went to Chicago. We've never been to Chicago in our lives, and God spoke to us and told us to go by faith, and it really blessed our life. Just being able to go and see you're not alone. It was 50 other people that are going through this. Some are on the praise team, some are pastors, some are elders, and people in the church, like just believers that are going through. And to know it's okay to break the silence, because a lot of times we're shamed. We don't want to talk about it. It's a taboo topic. And so definitely it didn't feel supported. And then even when we had a miscarriage, I will say that when we had a miscarriage, that was even more difficult, because we experienced like having a miracle baby, but then now experiencing a loss. You should be thankful that you already have a child. And so that was hard. It was like, well, it's still a loss. I don't care if it's 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 5 months, it's still a loss. And I think that, again, people should be sensitive what they say. And then when it happened on the day of, so at my practice, we don't have a particular doctor or midwife. You see everybody. And so it's like, and so it just so happened when I had the miscarriage that day, it was a new midwife, and she was just very blunt. And she was just like, you have PCOS, it's common for you to have a miscarriage. Just try again in a couple months. And it was just like, it just left a bitter taste in my mouth too. And it really hurt. And so it wasn't until like my follow-up visit, some of the other doctors and midwives that I met with, they actually showed compassion. They prayed with me. They gave me a hug, things like that. And then I continue to rely on the support groups that I connected with to help me, as well as counseling. So that was support for me.
Wow. What about you, Sam? Do you feel that you had proper support in any of it? So dealing with the loss, dealing with the infertility, do you feel like you had proper support as a man?
Well, I believe I had the proper support that I needed. I put it that way. Of course, just to be real, when it comes to infertility and miscarriage, a lot of society puts it all on the woman when it comes to the need for her to be encouraged and be built up and to be strengthened. And it's like, even even in church, sometimes it's just like, make sure you're there for your wife, so it's not like we play a part of making or it seems like we don't play a part in that, like we don't feel any type of way either, like we're strong, and one of the things that I'm thankful for is my mom. I got a lot of support from my mom, because just even I believe it plays a role in even the way I think, even towards the in my faith in Christ, because my mom was always like that. It's like, people would think my mom was just so gullible, but she loved the Lord. And every time she was just like, oh, it's gonna come. It don't matter. It's like stuff like this don't faze my mother. She's comforting. She said, it's gonna come, and God is gonna bring that baby back to you. And she always, because I had a feeling what she was gonna say anyway, So, but I have my brothers that in the body who support me all the time, same brothers, just those handful of brothers, they pray with me and everything. But you know, the support from men is like, you know, it's to a point. It's not that they don't care, it's that they don't feel like they're needed. They don't feel like that anybody cares about it anyway. So they say, well, you know, it's, let me just be here for my wife. And then we make a trend of that, you know, which we're supposed to do. But the thing about it is you can be there for your wife and be hurting inside. So then it loses the effectiveness of you being there for your wife and comforting her, because you're putting on a mask like you're okay.
Right.
You know, like you're fine, and you got other people around you telling you that, oh man, you'll make it, dude. You know what I'm saying? It happened. Just be there for your wife. You know, you men go through a lot of things, and one of the things that I say that men cover up, they're hurt different than women. One, when women might cry openly, men will get angry. That's their crying, because if I cry, then I'm soft. You know, but if I am tough about it, you know, it'll make it seem like that nothing bothers me. And so it bothered me for a long time. You know, I went through depression myself because I had other things mixed up together, along with, you know, job situations, along with just trying to get support in other areas. It was like, you know, you have the support that I had, the support that you need. I can't expect to look for the same amount of support in the society that we live in as my wife gets, that, and I should get it. No, I take the support that I need, and that's what drives me, and the Lord knows what I need. And so I got the proper amount of support. But I just want to encourage men that don't pretend like you're good if you go through situations like this, because, you know, it's nothing wrong with being sensitive about your feelings. You're not soft. That's just what TV wants to tell us. And so, you know, if we look at Jesus, he wept, you know, but he was the strongest man in the entire universe, hardcore to the bone, with humility. And so that's how we have to look at it more as men, instead of trying to be tough.
Wow. That's awesome that you guys both kind of had different support systems. And that, Sam, you said that you had support, but the support is different for men than it is for women. I definitely agree with that, because women, you know, we can go to our girlfriend and cry about it, but you guys as men, you don't get to do that, because they're gonna be
You
looking at
good?
you
You
like,
all
yeah,
right?
you good? You
Yeah.
know? So yeah, that's definitely very interesting that you said that. And before we go, I just want to ask you guys one last question. What advice would you offer somebody who is going through something similar? So maybe a loss or dealing with infertility. And I'll let both of you kind of give your advice. But what would you tell somebody maybe who's just starting on this journey and they're feeling the depression? Because we all go through it. We all go through it. It might last for a year. It might last for 6. It just depends. And it comes in waves. So
That's right.
what would you tell that person that feels like this is never going to happen? You know, that is now down on themselves because they feel like their body is broken. They feel like God has left them. They just feel like they have nothing left because this thing that they wanted so bad just won't happen. What would you say to that person?
As like a woman to a woman, I would encourage another woman to know, first of all, she's fearfully and wonderfully made, and that she is a woman regardless whether you have a child or not. Because I think as a woman, you beat yourself up. If I can't have a child, I feel less than a woman. So just knowing that you are a woman, and being a mom is just an added bonus, but it doesn't make you a woman. So definitely just affirming a woman in that way, letting them know that they it's not their fault, because you can also be overcome with shame and guilt feeling like you did something. It's something in your past that maybe God is punishing you about, and but just knowing that it's not your fault. And sometimes we don't have the answers. Why are we going through this? And sometimes we may not see the answer. God may reveal it by and by, in pieces, why we go through different situations. But just to relieve themselves of that baggage, that it's not a weight that we're meant to carry, that it's not their fault. And definitely to give yourself time to heal, because like you were saying, we each, like, it comes in waves, so don't put a time limit. Like, I need to heal in X amount of time. Know that every woman's journey is different. Even if you have a similar story, no story is the same. And you could listen to a testimony and think, like, and be encouraged. Definitely we're grateful for testimonies. I know other people's testimonies encourage me, but just to know God is still able to write your own story. And my story is going to be different from any other story. And that's the way it's supposed to be, because every person's unique and our stories are unique. And so, and just knowing that during that time to stay close to God and each other, because you definitely can, that can separate marriage. And marriage is hard alone, working out. But that can definitely be something that kind of bring you apart, if you don't stay close to God first. And so that would be my encouragement, definitely.
Oh, well, thank you, Ariel. And what about you, Sam?
I would say collectively as a whole, both man and woman, don't let the friends that are there to comfort you be your primary source of communication and contact. Let them be the secondary, because a lot of times y'all need each other. Both the man and the woman are hurting, and a lot of times we stray off into the people that understand us first, instead of being there for each other. Because even in those times, you, like I said, you're gonna feel like, oh, all the attention is on a woman, of course, because even the word says she's the weaker vessel. Not that she's weak in general, but when it comes to situations like that, that's why I believe the Lord says she's the weaker vessel. That's why you have to love your wife as Christ loved the church. We are the church, and look at how we treat Christ sometimes. So that's why we as men have to don't just rely on our wife to pray. We have to be the prayer warriors of our home. So we have to initiate the point of contact of being there and humbling ourselves, and not allowing frustration to enter into us, even when our wife is frustrated, because we can't control each other, but we can control how we respond to each other. And so, in the time that there are going to be times that your spouse feels, I just need to be alone. Don't take that personally, because that's when the enemy will come in and be like, oh, she act like she's the only one that's hurting. Don't listen to those lies. It's a lie, because the enemy wants to cause division, and he can cause any division in any kind of way by lying. And so, looking at it from a standpoint of, if your spouse is going through in this miscarriage, then God knows how she feels. So you pray, and while you're praying, that's the best thing that you can do, because if she needs to be alone, you pray. You pray for her strength, because God sees her. Because we sometimes feel like we need to do everything, but we have forgotten that we are limited as human beings. So I say, don't let your friends be your secondary resource. But if that's not the case, don't look at it as, make sure both people are coming together, because that's the main thing the enemy is going to attack first, all the time. It's going to attack first, even words that are saying that may not be directed towards the person is going to be taken that way. And so anytime you have a situation like miscarriage, infertility, it's going to start with the family first, the two people that are creating this child. Because guess what? You can't create a child if you divorce.
Right. That's true.
So that it's like either I need to get them mad at each other so they won't have another chance.
Mm-hmm.
So stay focused on the Lord first, and then stay focused on each other. And really, that's all that I would say, because the number one thing that we face as when in loss is you it's separation. It's like, I'm going this way, you don't understand me and I don't understand. It's not about understanding, it's about being there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about being there. So
Mm-hmm. Wow, that was really good, guys. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story and for encouraging those who are going through this, because they need the encouragement. People are here are out here being depressed. They're out here feeling alone. And what you just said is probably going to help somebody. So thank you so much. And I hope that you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank
Have
you.